If you've ever asked yourself, should I be running in the morning or at night, you are not alone. Some runners swear by early miles, and others say that evening runs feel way better.
The real answer is that there's no universal better time to run. The best time is always going to be the time that you can be most consistent. But there are absolutely physiological and practical differences that matter between morning and evening.
So in this episode, we are breaking down the pros and cons of morning runs and evening runs so that you can make the best decision for you.
All right, benefits of morning runs, there are a lot. Consistency advantage. We know that there are fewer scheduling conflicts, so this is really big, especially with our people that work jobs that have unpredictable hours, people that have social plans. If you're tired later in the day, our parents 100% will almost always choose a morning run because they can get their workout in before the day gets them, right? Mm-hmm. It really builds routine as well, which is huge for long-term progress. We know that. We know that you need to have some type of routine that you can do over, not perfectly all the time, but consistency breeds excellence, right?
Yeah.
We did a whole episode on this, right? It was episode 213. Tune in, go back, find it. This is our favorite hack to make sure you get your workouts done is literally to do them in the morning.
Yeah, I think there are other benefits too. It gives you some mental momentum, right? Like you start your day off with a win. It's especially on interval or quality work days, when you have done the hard thing first,
Yep.
Everything else seems easier. So like, in the workplace, maybe the deadline doesn't seem as daunting because you've already tackled something challenging in your day. It can improve your mood, obviously, and your focus later on. I think a lot of people are concerned about being tired later on.
Yeah.
But the truth is, most people who do get in that habit of waking up early to run, if you adjust your sleep schedule, don't experience the fatigue that a lot of people are worried about with having an early morning session.
Here's my off the script hack. And this is a big one. We have an entire episode on sleep as well. Probably two, and I'm forgetting one. However, this is one. I actually don't love working out super early. I do not love a 5:30 a.m. run personally. Right. I love it for my athletes. I like coaching them because I think people are really it provides some really great cohesion.
Yeah.
Again, I think they can put their heads down and do some work. I'm always shocked at who isn't caffeinated. But because of that, I am usually up early, and I am naturally a pretty early riser, but my ideal time might be closer to 6 if I am given a choice. But that being said, if you are trying to get into morning runs, I always use that 1 hour rule. So if I get up at 5, let's say, to coach a 5:30 run, I'm going to not wake up any later than 6 on another day. And that makes that 5 so much easier because you're not swinging like 5, 7, 5, 8, right? And the same thing with sleep onset. Mm-hmm. We definitely do not go to bed at a completely perfect time in this house. Yeah. Last night was 9:14 p.m. That's about as early as we can finagle, but sometimes we're closer to 10:15, right? But again, trying to use that hour rule on both sides means that your onset and your wake is going to be a lot smoother if and when you do need to get up earlier and execute.
That's huge. I see another sleep episode happening in our future. That's a good one. So another reason we like morning workouts is that if you race, there's a great chance that your race will be starting in the morning, as 99% of our races do. Yeah. So morning workouts can train your body and your mind for performance at that time, more closely replicating your race day experience.
And your gut, right?
Yes, because all of that needs training.
Yeah, absolutely. Like getting your breakfast in is huge. Hey, reality check. Your body is also colder and stiffer when you wake up. I know I am like, when did sleeping start hurting so much, right? But it could mean that you have a higher injury risk, especially if you don't warm up properly, especially in cooler temps, right? So making sure if you are tackling those morning windows to have a hearty warm up, do not cut that. And your performance overall might feel harder early because it's early. Like you're not awake yet. Spoiler alert, if you drink a little coffee, it might help.
Maybe, but then you also have to give yourself time to
go to the bathroom.
Do what coffee does. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good point.
All right, so the benefits of evening runs now. In terms of peak performance physically, evening runs are where it's at. Your body temperature is already warm. Your reaction time is already popping. Your muscle function is already moving because it's later in the day and you're awake.
We see this in strength classes. Like 5:30 a.m., I love you. but you're zombies. Like you do by the end of class, they're starting to wake up a little bit, but I have these moments of like, are you still asleep? Are you standing? Are you dead? Just, we tend to program a little bit simpler, like instead of 4 things in a set, 2 things in a set, because we know that you're just not quite clicking yet. Evening, we can write way crazier things. You all follow along. There's no hesitation of movement. You tend to lift a little heavier. We see it. All of this is the exact same application when we get to intensity with running.
Yeah, and research supports that. So research shows that strength and endurance performance often peak in the late afternoon and early evening hours. And that makes sense for all the things that you just said.
Yeah, trust me, we see it. You could tend to have better quality workouts in the PM hours. You're more fueled, right? You have more gas in the tank. You've probably been hydrating, hopefully, you've had 1 or 2 good meals and you're fully awake. It might seem easier for you to hit intensity paces like tempos and intervals or even longer workouts because you're kind of in a better space to be able to do that.
And another big benefit is stress relief. So a lot of people find running after work helps sort of regulate stress and decompress and sort of move you from workplace to home life. Planning is key. And that brings up a good point. There are a couple of downsides to having running in the evening and evening workouts. There's a higher chance that you will skip due to fatigue from the day or to schedule changes. So you're done at 5, but what happens if you have a project pop up and you have to stay late, or you hit horrible traffic, and you can't get home on time or get to your gym class on time. So the scheduling can be a little bit dicey. You also need to pay attention to your timing of your snacks, your hydration, your lunch maybe, to make sure that you're well fueled for that. A lot of our athletes will train fasted in the morning if they're doing an easy run or have that light breakfast before a morning session. So that you're fueled, or that you are going to do that easy run and eat after. For the evening workouts, I think if you eat lunch at noon and you're going to try to hit a hard workout at 5:30,
you have a snacky poo. You're going to want yourself a snack.
Yeah, that is a lesson that only takes one time to learn.
Yep.
You're gonna bonk horrendously, and you're gonna think about fueling in the future. And then the last thing is that it can interfere with your sleep if it's done too close to bedtime, especially on intense sessions. For our summer runners, as we're trying to hit a 5:30 p.m. session, that might still be the heat of the day.
Yeah, very good point. Yep.
If I'm thinking about if we're cranking a time trial at 5:30 versus 7:30, there are going to be some offsets there. There is a benefit to doing it a little later, a little cooler, a little less in the sun, but also you might not sleep that night.
One of my favorite hacks, I'm going backwards to a benefit. I know we just talked about the reality check of it all, is getting in an intensity run outside. You have to be safe when you do this, but doing it as it's sunsetting. Mm-hmm. Because for me, it's awesome, right? Because you tend to warm up as it's getting a little cooler. And then by the time you get to the meat of your workout, the sun is down, the temps are dropping. So as your heat rises, as your heart rate rises, as your effort rises, you're getting this beautiful offset of the temps. I think we feel this more in the fall when we get like those first few crisp days, and it is magical at night. Yeah, it's my absolute favorite. So we're thinking about performance versus consistency and the trade-off when it comes to morning versus evening. So morning really means you have the advantage when it comes to consistency, which as coaches, we might argue is the most important element to a successful training season.
Yeah, but at night you have the advantage of performance because you're warmed up, because you're alert, and your body's ready to go.
Most runners are going to need both at different times, whether it is different times of the training cycle or different seasons.
Yeah, so an example, like your easy runs might be great in the morning when you know that you can do that on minimal fueling or just to get it done and before the day starts. And some of those hard workouts might feel better at night when you are more alert and ready to rock.
But you gotta actually do them. The big takeaway with this is that you don't wanna force one time window for everything.
Yeah, and sometimes when we're locked into our schedule, we hesitate to try the other version, the morning or the night if we're the opposite, and we can really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think it just takes one time to try to see that it actually might work for you. So let's talk about some of the considerations here in something else, which is the sleep and recovery, which is super important to be able to not only hit these sessions, but also all the sessions that come after it in your week. For morning runs, those are going to require an earlier wake up. Obviously, I love that hour time frame hack.
Give myself a little grace.
Yeah, give you a little grace, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to go to bed earlier if you're going to do morning runs. That's it. Morning runs can cut into your sleep if you don't manage that bedtime, and we think that sleep is the priority.
I still get stressed out about setting my morning alarm.
Yeah.
I'm mid-40s and it's still like, oh my God. And I think I would wake up naturally regardless, but it's just the idea of like not having a chance to wake up on your own. But I will tell you, if I know that I'm in bed by 10 or I know I'm in bed by a reasonable hour, that is way reduced. I can lay down and be like, okay, I have at least 7.5. I'm okay, right? And you do the math and realize it's not that hard.
Right.
Evening runs from a recovery and sleep standpoint, intense sessions, as we said, too close, might actually affect your bedtimes. Makes it really, really hard to get tired. You are ramping up your energy instead of winding down. So we like, especially if they do bleed kind of late, if everything gets pushed later, is some type of light or moderate run is going to be a lot better the later you go throughout the day.
Yeah, the bottom line here is if your running schedule is hurting your sleep, it's hurting your training overall.
So how do we choose what's best for you, right? First step, you're going to ask yourself, when can I be most consistent? Again, this is probably the most important characteristic of any successful training season. It is not sexy. When can I be most consistent? Number 2, when do I feel best physically, right? Do I feel like a tin man for the first hour of moving in the morning? If so, maybe flip it to the evening. What fits into my life long term? Right? Where does it fit well? Well, when I had an 8 to 5 job, it worked really well for me to do it at 5 p.m. That is no longer the case. I would add one on here too. If I have friends that I'm training with, when is it most likely that we are going to be able to show up for accountability? Because both of these have challenges, both the morning and the evening. But I will tell you what, if you have people to do them with, completely different. It just makes everything so much easier to hit.
That's so true. So as a practical approach, how could you actually do this? You could use the morning runs for your routine runs. You could use evenings for key workouts if you find you don't perform. You could pick one and consistently stay with it, but you could also put them wherever you need to. But the pro tip on this is that you have to schedule it. So we advise sitting down maybe on Sunday night as you're looking at planning out your week and actually figuring out when you're going to hit those sessions. This is the unlock to making sure that it actually happens. Because if you have a morning training session with your team, as an example, on a Thursday, when are you going to do that Wednesday run? Is it going to be a morning run? Or is it going to be a night workout? And if it's a night workout, how are you going to make sure it doesn't impact you on the next day? Planning is key. This is your way to get it done.
All right, to wrap up, there is no magic time to run. There actually isn't.
The best runners aren't choosing the perfect time. They're choosing consistency.
So we want you to pick a time, commit, try it out, and build from there.
And if you want to learn more about becoming a morning runner, check out this video right here for tips and tricks on how to get out of bed and make it happen.